So what I'd like to do today is discuss the Personal Energy Audit Lab. So there's a couple ways you can get to this lab. You can go to Course Materials, click on the content, go to the Energy unit, and click through the pages till you find the assignment. Or the way I go to get to them is I just click here on the Energy Use and Sources button. And then I go to Personal Energy Audit and I download it. So let's see what's going on in this lab. Okay, let's see. Let's make it large. Okay. On the chart below, record the amount of time you use these appliances each day. I'm going to highlight this in a different color so we know that that's the edits I made. If you use them only a few times a week or less, prorate them to daily use. Okay, so let's explain that part. Okay, so let's say you wash, let's look at one of these things. Let's say, like for example, at our house, my husband only makes coffee on the weekends, so that's 1100, and he probably uses it maybe like an hour, okay, on Saturday and Sunday, right? So that would be 2 hours for 2 days times 1100, which would be 2200. If we wanted to prorate this for 7 days, we would just divide that by 7, and that would get us the amount he used it each day, which would be 314. Okay, so that's what they mean by prorating, just so you guys have an idea of what they're talking about there. And I'll make a note here. I'll write here. Used once per day only on weekends, prorated to daily use. Okay. 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 What's going on here? Okay. Okay, so that's what I added. Oh, geez, Louise. Okay, there we go. Oh, geez. Okay. Oh well. Then it says convert the watts of power to kilowatts. Okay. So let's discuss that a little bit. So to do watts to kilowatts, you're gonna start. You're gonna have you'll have a number of watts, and then there are 1,000 watts in 1 kilowatt. So you'll want kilowatts. So you'll put that on the top. We may not even. And then we'll divide by 1,000 watts. And then we'll cross that off. And we'll get our answer in kilowatts. Let me remove these spaces. Okay, there we go. So that makes a little more sense. Okay, so there's that. I'll highlight that. And multiply by the time used to get the kilowatt hours per day. So if you want kilowatt hours per day, you'll just take however many kilowatts you have and multiply by the amount of hours per day, and that'll give you kilowatt hours per day. Okay, and this is actually how they can calculate your electric bill, actually, in case you were interested in that. Okay, and multiply by the time used to get the kilowatt hours per day. Oh, I should put that part here. Okay, let's see what else. Then it says if you use electrical appliances that are not on the list, you can add them, and you should add at least 2 additional ones and determine the watts by multiplying the volts by the amps on the appliance label. Okay? So your hypothesis, you're going to write that in answering kilowatt hours per day. So if I use, well, that's not really going to work well. So you'll just say how many, you can, for this hypothesis, you can write it this way. I think I use this many kilowatt hours per day. Okay, so that can be your hypothesis. And then these are any conversion factors you might need later in the lab. And then you need to use at least 2 additional appliances. Okay, so you could use an iPod, an iPad, a computer. Well, they have a computer. You know, anything that you want, an Xbox, whatever. And then you'll just look on the appliance and you'll look for the volts and the amps on the label, and then you'll add that. You could use a laundry machine. That's a pretty, or I guess they have a clothes dryer and a clothes washer. So you'll just have to find something that, you know, a lot of students use like Xboxes and iPhones and things like that. So then you're going to answer these questions. So this one does not require a lab report, okay? So you do have to use this information for each section. And let me see if I can add the lines on the data table, because I think that makes it easier personally to see. There you go. And then you can add your power. So for example, if we want the power of our AC, let's say we'll do 1360 divided by 1,000 equals 1.36. I'm going to write this in red. Then, how many hours a day do we use our AC? Let's say we use it 5 at this time of the year. Okay? So then if we want to do our energy per day, we'll do 1.36 times 5 equals get my calculator. 6.8. Okay. We already did the coffee maker, right? Where was that? We did and we said we used it 2 hours a day, so that was 314.29 watts, which was, what was it? We had like basically 2,200 or 2.2 per week, and then we were gonna we did the math, so we would do divided by 7 is 0.314. And you guys can do the rest. And again, remember, you need to pick at least 2 appliances that you're doing yourself. Okay. Then let's go to our questions. Okay. How much electrical energy do you consume each day on average? So what you'll do is you will add all of the numbers you got in this far right column. Okay, so let me see if I can make an additional column here. Well, I'll just add it, everything. So how do you answer this one? Add up all of your answers in the, that didn't work well. Energy per day column. And then for this one, how much to use each year, you're going to take your answer from the previous question and multiply by 365, and that'll get your energy per year, right? Because there's 365 days in your year. Now it says the energy in your region may come from the burning of natural gas. Calculate how many cubic feet of natural gas is needed to support your lifestyle using the data in the table below. And when they say the table below, they're saying this. Okay, so you're going to want to use these numbers here. Okay, so you'll use that. Use BTUs in kilowatt hours. So let's do an example. Okay, let's pretend that your answer was like 100 kilowatt hours, right? So 100 kilowatt hours. Each kilowatt hour is equal to 3.42 times 10 to the 3. So I'm going to multiply that. Oh dear. By this, okay? And I will get, should be 3.42 times 10 to the 4, but let's just check just to be safe. Math is not my strong suit, so I'm super glad we get to use calculators this year, and anytime I can use a calculator, I'm going to, because I don't want to get the answer wrong because I try to do it in my head. Okay, so that's 34,000, or 3.42 times 10 to the 4. Okay, so now we have our BTUs. Okay, now if you look here, we have a foot of natural gas. A foot squared of natural gas is 1.03 BTUs. Okay, so we can take this 34,200 BTU and we can divide it by, you'll actually multiply because you'll put 1 foot cubed and you'll divide it by 1030 BTU. We'll cross out our BTUs. We'll remove all these extra lines. I don't know why they're all in here. It's a waste. Okay. And we'll get 34,200 divided by 1030, and that's going to give us 33.2 feet cubed. Okay, now this is that was if it was 100. Obviously your answer is not going to be 100. I've just like made this up, okay, because I wanted to just kind of give you an example. Okay, and that would be like per day because I said kilowatt hours per day. Okay, now it says multiply this by the number of people in your family to get the total number on your gas bill from your gas provider. Okay, so if that's per day, then we'll have to multiply it by times 30. We'll assume it's 30. Okay. We'll assume our month has 30. Okay. And then we'll multiply this by the number of people in your family. So my family has 4 because there's me and my husband, and then there's our 2 kids. So we have, ours would be 996 times 12 times 4. Now remember, this is all based on that, let's say we use 100 kilowatts per day. We made that up, right? I made that up. So this isn't going to be like an accurate amount. This is just for like to kind of show you how the math goes. That way if you need some help kind of like figuring out how to do the calculations. Okay, so this is not expecting like your number will be the same. Okay, so now I could take my electricity bill and I could see if this was similar to what we used on our electricity bill. Okay, so then we're going to talk about how our numbers compare. If your electricity doesn't come from natural gas, you can use one of the other energy choices. Okay, that is very important. A lot of students, they'll just say, oh, we don't use natural gas, then they won't do this part. You still have to do it. Okay, they've got oil, they've got coal, they've got other things here, so you can just, you know, use a different kind of energy and then compare it to your electric bill. Okay, then you can calculate the percent difference. Okay, so how do we do the percent difference? Let's get that formula for you. Okay, so in order to do the percent difference, you're going to take, I want to get a good formula for you because there's a couple ways you can do it. Okay, so percent difference, you can use your, so this is the difference between the two numbers. And we will divide this, and then we'll just multiply by 100. So you would take like, so the difference between the two numbers. So let's say you could do actual utility bill minus calculated. That's the difference between the two. And then you'll divide that by your old value. Let me get this right. Okay, so we would write it like this. That looks better. Otherwise, you'll get something that's way too high. And we'll do okay. There we go. Okay. Why do you think there's a difference? There's a lot of reasons there could be a difference. That's for you to decide, not for me. That's something I want you to figure out, okay? And how could we have redesigned the exercise to count for the error? So think about that. Here's some other non-renewable fuels that could generate electricity. How much coal would have to be burned if it was the fuel used to generate? So you'll do the same calculations, right? You'll just use this first. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Eek. Okay, so you'll use that. You'll still use the you'll still use these numbers. Okay, so you'll do the same calculations you did before. You'll just like you did with the 100 kilowatts a day, except you'll use the instead of putting the natural gas number in here, you'll put the coal number in here. That's the only difference. Okay, so that's how you'll do that one. If the fuel was oil, so just a hint, do you see how regardless of what, right, you're still going to have to calculate everything. Okay, so the students that try and get out of it because they say, oh, I don't have that kind of, that's not how my electricity is generated. You're still going to have to do that, right? So if you use coal, oil, natural gas, whatever, you'll do that one first, and then you'll just do the other three here. Okay? And then here's the uranium one, just so you've got it. And I'll put this data table in your, I'll put this in the newsletter, and I'll also put it in the user link section of the course. That way you've got it, and you can use my notes as well. And then you're going to calculate the pros and cons, or compare the pros and cons of using non-renewable fuels to produce electricity on a large scale. So let's make a little chart. Let's delete this because that's not what I want. Okay. So you'll do a pro of oil, cons of oil. Here, I'm going to put this question on a separate page. That way it's easier. And then you'll discuss extraction, processing. I'm not telling you the answers. I'm telling you that you need to discuss these things, right? And this seems kind of tedious, but it's actually going to be really helpful for you for the AP exam because you'll have to compare types of non-renewable fuels. You'll have to compare them to so then we can put natural gas here. Okay, what else? We can do, was it coal? This is going to be really helpful for your test. This is going to be really helpful for the AP exam. So I know it seems like kind of like an afterthought of this lab, but it's actually going to be super helpful, even though it seems like it's kind of a tedious exercise. I would actually save this and use it to study for your AP exam, honestly. Then you can describe 10 ways you would decrease your energy use, and then you can write a conclusion. Okay, so that's what you need to do for this lab. Like I said, I think this pros and cons table is probably going to be one of the most important things you do. That and these calculations, because these calculations are very similar to the type of conversion calculations you'll have to do on the AP exam. So definitely do those as well. Really try and do those. But remember, you do get a calculator, which is on the AP exam now, which is kind of nice. So here we've got everything for you. So for this one, you do not need a lab report. You'll need that these calculations at the beginning that we discussed to kind of how to do this, how to fill out this data table. You'll need the 2 extra appliances. You can put 3 if you want, but you need at least 2. You'll need your hypothesis, and it doesn't have to be an if-then kind of one. You can just say, I think I use this many kilowatt hours per day. You'll do these questions, which includes these calculations, which remember are really, really important because that's what we're going to use on the AP exam. We're going to do questions like that. These are really important. you're going to make these 4 little pros and cons tables, which will be really helpful when you start studying for that AP exam. Definitely save this lab. And then you'll describe 10 ways you can decrease your energy usage, and you'll write a little conclusion. And that's what you need to do for this lab. So it's not going to take a lot of time in the form of like a lab report, but it will take time to kind of do these calculations and fill out these tables down here and write your conclusion and do some of this math. So definitely don't hold it off to like the very last minute, because I think if you do that, you'll be a little frustrated with how much time it does take for you. So hopefully this was helpful. And again, I'll post this document in the user link section and on the newsletter.